So Amelia and I are here today to talk to you about women and tech, but specifically in customer success. She and I are women in customer success, and we know this is something that's near and dear to a lot of our angels and a lot of other women who are thinking about getting into tech and are seeking the opportunity to thrive in tech. Before we dive in, I want to share a couple of key things here. So most of us who work in SaaS, in B2B technology subscription, there's a contractual obligation with a software uptime that you might not have realized is in your own company contracts that says it's basically going to work most of the time. And then we also have a support model. Teams are used to, especially leveraging AI, to have what we call a follow the sun model, where there is a support capability, all time zones all around the world for customers who have different needs. But then also that translates into this thought that as a customer success manager, you're also going to have that same availability. Even I, as a leader, have asked my teams when I was leading big corporate teams in tech that there should be at least a 24-hour response time during reasonable business hours for wherever that person lives. And that's usually reasonable. Most teams did that less, but the customer behavior has to help you change because they're used to better, faster, more now. That's really challenging as a mom working in tech. So today's agenda, we're going to tell you how to help navigate that. Thankfully, we're being hosted to share this. We will cover a brief overview of our why for the book, a little bit about, Emilia and I will talk about how things have changed in the tech landscape from when we published our book 2 years ago to where it's at now, how it's moving, but there's still some work to be done. And we'll provide tips for mothers who are either CSMs, who are CS leaders, and also for our allies who are working in tech today. And then lastly, we'll make sure that we leave time for Q&A. As Gemma mentioned, we have an open dialogue format here today. So please keep your thoughts and ideas aside, and then we'll have time and make sure we allow for that collaboration afterwards. All right, so before we tell you about ourselves and do a quick intro as to who we are, we want to take a moment to get to understand you. Please take a quick peek at this poll and let us know what challenge is facing you right now. So far, it's looking like professional development is the majority here. We hit 50% of the group. Okay. But the next key runner-up, it looks like tied, three-way tie actually, for ageism, for personal challenges, and financial stability. And those are all very, very real things. Everyone can see the results now? Okay, excellent. Thank you. So those are very real things, and those are things that Emilia and I have been faced with as well, and is ultimately, let's see here, okay, is ultimately why we decided to write our book, right? So some of the exact challenges really got us thinking and talking when we were first meeting one another back in 2018 when Emilia and I met, and I just had my second child and was struggling a lot with postpartum depression and anxiety and was really having a hard time. She was hired to come in and help train my team, and ultimately learned she had 3 kids. I said, holy moly, how are you handling this? I'm barely hanging on. And she was an inspiration to me. I asked if she'd mentor me, and we spent about an hour a month for the next few years, actually, until she started our business Growth Molecules today and asked me to join. So the genesis for our book, ultimately, we'll get into in a minute, but before we do that, I promised we would do some quick introductions. So Emilia, with that, I'll send it to you.
Thanks, Sabina. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to see you all on this call today. As Sabina said, I'm the founder of Growth Molecules. We're a customer success advisory, training, and technology firm. The company and I are based in the Bay Area. I live in Sonoma County, and I was in tech for 6 years before I had my first child, Ava. And then my second child came along when I was 35, about 6 years later. But I married my husband almost 19 years ago, and instantly became a mom. And one of his friends called me a bonus mom, and that's what I call myself today. So Tyler has been such a gift to me. I don't believe he's a stepson. He's integral to our family, and I'm so proud to be his bonus mom. So navigating my life today with two teenage daughters, Tyler's finally out of our house and independent in tech. The love of our life really is our dog. He's a shelter dog. We adopted him after a fox killed all our chickens on my daughter's 8th birthday. So he came and saved us from extreme sadness. And he thinks he is truly a bear. He tries to attack everyone who comes around. So hence we named him Bear, but he's incredibly loving to all of us. So thanks for having us here today. Sabina, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you. All right, so my name is Sabina, as we've covered. I am also a mom in tech, and I have been, I was in tech for 5 years when I had my first child, and then 9 years after I had my second. So my son Sawyer is 10, and my daughter Savannah is 6. They both play soccer, so I default makes me a soccer mom. I never thought I'd be one of those. I am married to a husband who also works in tech, and I'm residing in Orange County in Southern California. So with that, I'm going to explain a little bit about how we came to write this book. As I mentioned, that Emilia and I had met each other some years past. I'm trying to get my slides to advance here. It's a little frozen. Bear with me 1 second. I don't know why it's frozen. Maybe if I stop sharing and resume sharing, will that do the trick? Okay. So our reason for co-writing this book is to encourage women to get into tech, to stay in tech, and thrive in tech. And as I mentioned, I was really struggling after I had my child and really needed the encouragement and uh, a group of people, my allies, if you will, were my psychiatrist, my psychologist, people like Emilia, my good friends, and realize that there's all of us are facing these challenges and not everyone's talking about them. And so if we got around during COVID, we're working together and we said, this is so common. We're hearing so much of these things. The stats came out that 2.5 million women left the global workforce and got us wondering how many of those were actually moms. So we launched our own research study and we surveyed over 318 moms around the globe, completely agnostic of what role within tech they were in. They may have been, in the legal department, they may have been engineers, they may have been CSMs, but ultimately we wanted voices from women who had biologically had children, maybe who adopted children, who were caregivers for others, nieces, nephews, or women who were aspiring to become pregnant and were struggling with their fertility journeys. Those women spanned across 16 countries. And then we selected 12 of them to do these deep dive interviews, where now in our book, each chapter of our book is dedicated to one of those 12 women. So we tell our story. We want to uplift women. We then get out of the way in this book, and each of the chapters focuses on things like women who are in the LGBTQ plus community whose spouse had the baby and their persona and perception, the way they were treated, changed as soon as they became a mom. We talk about there's another woman who's gay who says that she dressed more androgynously by design. That was how she just liked to dress. And when she did that, she was considered some of the good old boys network. They treated her and saw her some of the same. As soon as she became a mom and had to start leaving work a little earlier to pick up the kids, she didn't get invited to the same meetings. She didn't get the same upward mobility and was treated very differently. So these are just some of the stories. Of course, we have women who had fertility and did IVF and struggled with that and on their rise to being a chief customer officer at a security company. All kinds of different stories in there. So for us, it was, let's get these stories out there. They're all different and they're all important. And it was critical to us to create a space for that. So in the 2 years since it launched, we've had the honor and been so thankful for all the amazing reviews on Amazon. It is published there on Barnes & Noble and Goodreads. And I want to say one of the most interesting experiences of my last 5 years of my career was recording. I love that we're hearing a baby, by the way. This is like so authentic and amazing in what it's about. And I encourage it. And I'm all here for it. We got to record an audiobook and it was still during COVID era, and so going to a recording studio wasn't an option. So we like hid in closets and like in a room of bunk beds with mattresses all around to drown out the noises. And hearing my own voice, I think most people feel that way about their own voices, was awful, but it was a really cool experience of vulnerability and growth. And thankfully it led to other opportunities to speak and be published and be on TV shows and all that. And now we get to add CS Angel to our list as well. So thank you to those of you who have supported us in that. But the real important part of why we're here today is to talk about where, as women in tech and CS, where we've been and where we're going. This is really, truly, the root of everything. So when we think about the facts of 2020 and 2021, when we were writing this book, it was the case that only 28% of the workforce was comprised of women, and specifically the technology workforce, right? And then according to the Center for Work-Life Policy, 56% of women were leaving the tech industry in mid-career. That aligns with these child-rearing ages. Most people now aren't having babies in their early 20s. So when we see that happen, it's then exacerbated by things like COVID, where significant women left the workforce because they're also predominantly still the ones doing caretaking. And then our own research showed that of that 318 global population of women that we surveyed, 50% of them reported that they had been subjected to harassment and sexism after becoming a mother, which was much higher than I thought it would be. So it was definitely sad. However, there's good news too. So just several years later, there's been some good progress. We haven't resurveyed our own population of women yet. Maybe that's another thing we'll tackle maybe in another year or so. We're still trying to keep up with the day jobs, as all of you. But the cool thing is that women held 35% of tech jobs at the end of 2023, right? So that's up, from just a few years ago. Looking at the bigger macro, though, that still means that only 1 in 3 tech workers is a woman, and then even fewer are mothers. So moving in the right direction, but we still have some work to do. And then also the 2023 Women in the Workforce report that McKinsey published in partnering with Sheryl Sandberg's company, leanon.org. They reported that women now occupy the highest level of C-suite representation in history. So this is 28%, and that's up from 17% in 2015. So some, again, significant strides. The more that we talk about it, the more that we have, people like Gemma paving the way and bringing us together here, it's going to change that. And then there's a case study as well that shows that for every $1 invested in caregiving benefits, it actually drives $18.93 of ROI for a company. So there's an 18x improvement that's been studied and shown and proven that by creating these caregiving programs that helps equalize labor opportunities. And it really is a significant way to make that change and create that even playing field. An interesting thing I just read this morning, and I don't know if any of you saw this in the news last week, that Michael Dell, the CEO of Dell, like computers technology company, he stipulated in a company-wide email that those who are working remotely still are not going to be eligible to upward mobility. They're not going to be able to get pay increases or raises in their jobs. Flabbergasting. Like, I was just shocked. I had to read it 3 times. I told Emilia about it on our phone call this morning. I couldn't believe it. So that's not what to do, for example. And when studies like this come out and show that it's actually more profitable to have flexible programs to honor and nurture things that caregivers need, not just mothers, but fathers, but, those caring for elderly. There's, the sandwich generation, you're taking care of your elders, you're taking care of your children, you might be helping, siblings. There's a lot more responsibility, and we have to help each other. So, which is great segue, if I may, to talk about then the tips here. How do we do that? And we broke that down into a couple key areas, right? So thinking about it from different personas, if you will. There's various roles that we'll consider and talk through. So customer success managers, what does it mean to be a mom and be a CSM? What does it mean to be a leader in customer success and also be a mom? And then what would we do without our allies? So what does it mean to be an ally? How can you support us? How can we work together and continue to make things better? So really easy, right? So get a mentor, get a sponsor, practice effective expectation setting. But I want to pause for a minute and first get a lay of the land and get to know where your vantage points are. So we're going to do a poll here really quickly, and I would love for you to let us know if you have a mentor. So far, it's pretty split. Okay, we can go ahead and end that poll and see the results there. Little more favorably leaning toward, oh, now it's 50-50. Okay, so what's interesting is men are 50% more likely to have a mentor than their female counterparts. So the fact that half of the room here have them, it's fantastic. And we want to now understand the second piece of that. So the next poll, if you don't mind launching it, Gemma, is if you have a sponsor. Do you have a sponsor? Okay, we can end that one. This is really surprising. 100%. So nobody in the group today on the call feels that they can identify with someone who's their sponsor. I'm going to explain a little bit about the difference between the two. So mentors can empathize with you. They ultimately have shared values and shared meaning, and they can be a peer. They could be a direct report. They could be, a boss. They could be someone in another company. We also have this concept of sponsors, and they are different, right? A sponsor is someone who can help you move up in your career. They're in the room when you're not able to be there. They actually can influence advances in your career. They're the ones who can recommend that you get a promotion. They're the ones who recommend the leadership development program in the company, perhaps, getting a promotion or getting picked to go do a special side project. Those are both really critical and really important. And it's not quite so black and white to say that there's mentors and there's sponsors. There's actually a linear path, degrees of sponsorship and mentorship, for example. When we see here on the right, it's basically thinking about things as there's mentorship, and over time that can evolve to sponsorship. Of course, it depends on where that person is poised within your company. But the key thing is that you have both of these roles and both of these opportunities, which leads me to our first key area we're going to talk about is actually customer success managers and how critical it is for you as a mom in tech to be able to have mentors and sponsors. And so, we talk about getting a mentor. Great. Well, it's not that easy to do it. I felt like I was asking Emilia out on a date when I asked if she would mentor me. I'd never asked anyone before. I was mortified. I was so embarrassed. I don't know why. I mean, I was managing 70 million in revenue and going toe to toe with CFOs. We didn't want to renew our contracts, but I was terrified to ask sweet, innocent Emilia here if she would mentor me, but I did it. I'm so glad that I did. It helped me with overcoming imposter syndrome. It helped me go and ask for the things that I believed that I deserved at work, but was too scared to ask. I didn't have the strategy behind the data to share, to ask for those things. And Emilia helped me with that. And I said, I'm not really great at data scientist. Or data science. I'm not strong, in all ways of qualitative analysis and computing things. And she said, who cares? Go find someone on Upwork. I don't know if you remember this, Emilia. This was in August of 2019, I think. And I have it on my notes still in Evernote. And you're like, go find someone. Who cares? Like, lean in on your strengths, like the Clifton Strengths methodology. Find someone who can help you with your weaknesses. And I was like, why didn't that occur to me? So, establish these professional relationships. They may come in places that you're not necessarily looking or seeking, and capitalize on them. And that person can start to ask you or answer questions for you, like, what do you think about this? Or I have this situation, how could I best handle it? So those are some key things to think about as a CSM, as a mother. Also getting a sponsor. So we talked about that the person who's in the room who can help make decisions for you. Let them know what you aspire to be, what you want to have. I want to manage people. I want to go to President's Club this year. I want to grow my book of business by 12%. How do I do that? And then keeping them in the loop as you're making those progress. As women, we tend to minimize or find that sharing our successes is boastful. We're taught to be humble and demure sometimes. And so it's uncomfortable for us to share our wins and our victories. Make sure your sponsor knows what those are, even if it's in a one-on-one private setting, because if they don't know, they can't help you. And I guarantee you, many other people out there are going to be absolutely sharing their successes out loud, and you don't want to get left behind or having this thought that, if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. We don't want that to happen to you. So make sure that you're aware of that. And as a mother, that's even more of a struggle, right? If we are saying we need these flexible work programs, and the perception of leaving early to go get your kids, or, to be off Slack for a few hours while you're at soccer practice, that's got to change. And the only way we can do that is still to highlight the things that we are doing meaningfully, that we are doing well, and it doesn't matter what time we're doing them. And then additionally, using your own power. So you can set expectations with customers as a CSM on the very first kickoff call. You should be doing that about your company's offerings that are available to them. So, we have a great user community. We have a Slack channel. You can engage us in this webinar. We have these ebooks. There's, all these resources, 24/7 chat. Call us up on 1-800 number, whatever that looks like, and set that expectation so they know when you say to them, this is great, thank you so much for contacting me about XYZ. I'm going to direct you to our knowledge base. We talked about this on our kickoff. It's really great. You'll love it. Same thing is true with your coworkers, right? Or when you're interviewing for a job, setting the expectation. I will be available during these hours. Periodically, I can shift my schedule, but typically I have to get to daycare by this time. Otherwise, I'm charged $1 per minute for being late. Right. So using your own power that you have as a person in tech, and it's really critical to own those three things. So now Emilia is going to take us through customer success leaders, right? What you can do to really own and lean into being a mother in customer success.
Thanks, Sabina. Yeah, so similarly to the strategies for CSMs, there's steps that moms can take who are also CS leaders and continue to press on as leaders in their own tech jobs. So first, be a mentor and a sponsor. As a mom in CS, you remember the demands of customers and the blurred lines between customer centricity, timely responses, and personal time. I'm often asked to be a mentor and a sponsor. I was recently in a revenue group that I belong to, and I had to be realistic and say, you know what, I take on 3 mentors at a time, and right now I'm at capacity. But reach out to me this summer. I try to be a mentor to people for an X amount of time so that I can spread myself out. But I remember that I need to also take my personal time. And that can mean that I'm a mentor doing a walk and talk. So taking my dog for a walk, still getting my steps in, but also being a good listener and helping someone. So practicing the golden rule, have dedication to look outside of yourself and do for others what you've done for them. And in one of the polls that Sabina showed, I recently did do a pay it forward for women in revenue and did a month-long series on ageism in tech. And I was surprised how many women in their 20s joined us. And then we had someone who was 70, a fractional CMO on the call. And being able to do this pay it forward, being a mentor for these women experiencing ageism was really gratifying for me. So I'm glad we put that as a line item in our poll. This is the first time we've done it, and you saw 3 people are experiencing it. So being available for those people. 2, you want to launch programs for work flexibility and leverage your authority to be able to do that. So companies like WorkMuse, RoleShare, a lot of medical companies, they offer job sharing. It's incredibly powerful. It allows for sharing a job, but now we're seeing it more in CS as well. So I'll use our own company. We use G2. We love our customers sharing feedback about their experience working with me and Sabina and other colleagues. And they recently moved to a pooled model where now I don't have one CSM, but I have a whole community. And I've noticed that when I need help or I want to go and do something to optimize our G2 page, I get responses so much faster. So it's actually been a really great thing that they've moved to a pooled customer success model. And then last but not least is flexible programs for mothers and caregivers. It's not just good for them, but it's good for your company. And we'll give you an example. If you prevent 5 employees from quitting, you're saving your company approximately $200,000. And this assumes you pay on average $80,000 per employee, and the replacement cost associated to that is 50%. So having flexible programs is not only good for the mother, but also for your company. And then have an outcome-oriented mindset. We practice this at Growth Molecules to the T. I'm very proud of that. We align our team with desired outcomes that are aligned with our customer needs, and we allow flexibility. We're never checking when is someone coming in or out, but rather what are the outcomes? And the result has been focused, better work that we hear when we do retrospectives or reflections with our clients. We've never had feedback in the 3.5 years of consulting where they haven't felt that we've been available. And then last, change the narrative, lead by example, be authentic in your communication and your own balancing act. Often we do a lot of our meetings, walking and talking, because we want to encourage people to get out and not be at their desks all day. We know it's not good for them. We know it's not good for us. So I take a lot of my one-on-ones by walking and talking. All right, so next we want to move on to an example here. You'll notice, if you'll just, I'll give you a moment to read some of these. These are common scenarios that Sabina actually gathered, normalizing being a mom in CS. They destigmatize uh, being a mother and being transparent about it, sharing your own demands of motherhood commitments. I do it all the time on LinkedIn. If someone doesn't want to hear or read it, they can hide me. To me, it matters so much. I know that my voice is helping peers, people who report to me, and allies. So if you don't have a child, but being able to understand that people on your team might have child or other commitments, it's helpful to talk about it. And there's evidence that's very robust and recently researched by Harvard University. It came out in March 2022. They found that women seeing or hearing about other female leaders improve women's self-perception and performance, and they're incredibly important for closing the gender gap. I feel so much reward when I have people reaching out to me. I had someone from Spain reach out to me, a man saying, I just ordered your book. I'm really excited to learn. We don't have anything like this in Spain, to learn how I can help mothers on my own team. So get out there, feel free to talk about it. And we put the hashtag pressing on all these slides, because if you do tag us, you do put that. We'd love to give away a few of our books to some of you who share your own stories if you're comfortable with it. So the bottom line, we need more women in leadership positions and more mothers in those positions as well. A study published by the journal Psychological and Cognitive Science, that's such a mouthful, found that hiring women at top levels of leadership not only reduces gender types, but they found that female representation is not merely an end. It's a means to systemic change in that is very much creating these gender stereotypes. So we need to overcome them with these trade-offs of being women perceived as in a very particular way, right? We need to break those down. We can be a lot of different things. So let's lastly discuss tips for those who are or want to be allies of mothers in customer success. I'd love for you to put in the chat now. We don't have a poll, but rather a chat. What do you think makes an ally for you? Give you a moment to put that in the chat. Yes, Sabina, someone who has my back. Sagar on the call today is an ally for sure, right? Normalize taking breaks in the workplace, absolutely. Empathy, understanding, grace. Normalizing picking up kids. Yes, I'll never forget someone yelling at me, someone who reported to me saying, "Why do you get to leave at 5:10? I'm here so much longer than you." He was so angry. And well, I told him I have two kids to pick up. I take a bus to go pick them up from daycare. Then I put them both on the bus and we go home. We lived in San Francisco. And 3 years later, when he had kids with his partner, he came to me and apologized. He was so incredibly embarrassed, realizing that now he had to leave as well. So an ally is someone who is not a member of an underrepresented group, but who is active and purposeful in supporting, promoting, and advancing real change to that marginalized group through a focus of inclusion, equity, and diversity. And that's really one of the main messages that we have in our book. So tips for pressing on as an ally of mothers: show empathy, compassion, and courage. Ask questions. Use the courage to use your voice to call out bad behavior when you see it. I've done it in a boardroom where I was the only woman in the room, and the head of product kept referring to everything in the he gender, and I called him out on it in a very respectful way. And he said, "You know what? I didn't even realize I was unconsciously doing this. And now I realize it was ignoring you in the room." So having the courage to be vulnerable and then commit to learning and unlearning. Great allies are willing to invest in learning about biases they carry, the words and what they may make someone feel, especially excluded, and the ways they can individually help uplift those around them. And my daughters have asked me questions and called me out on some of the things I've said. And it's really made me think, wow, this new generation of leaders are really looking at things in a way that we were never given an opportunity or presented. And so it's forcing me to unlearn some of the unconscious biases that I've had with my own upbringing. So last, take action. Being an ally is not a label. You can self-appoint it. No one has to call you an ally. And it's sitting in the background, making sure that you're reflecting, being sensitive, being aware of others and the challenges that other people that don't look like you or act like you or think like you face. And that is incredibly important when it comes to being an ally. Take meaningful action that drives purpose. So I want to just a couple more things. Take a minute to understand what it means for you, perception versus reality. How many of you moms used one of those fancy apps? They didn't exist when I had children, so I didn't have an opportunity to use them. But I know Sabina used one to help, and it's what cluster feeding looks like when a baby is nursing every hour and that source of milk. You have to drink a lot of water. You need to rest a lot. If you're not doing that, you're not able to produce what your baby needs so much. So if you want to be an ally, for example, sending someone a Starbucks card, letting them know that they should absolutely take breaks at every hour, making it okay, stigmatizing these kind of things are incredibly important for mothers that are re-entering the workforce, especially. All right, so for the allies, take a moment later to reference some of these questions. Do a self-reflection. At a minimum, it may just make you more aware of your own behaviors, what you want to change, what you want to do more of. and create better behaviors. We are on a mission to have more allies of mothers in tech, because it may be someone who's trying to get pregnant. It may be someone who is challenged, like Sabina mentioned, she was depressed. Me feeling incredibly isolated. I didn't have any time living in Oklahoma for the 3 years we lived there for maternity leave. So me saving up those 5.5 weeks of vacation and then going straight back to work because I had no maternity leave. So those kind of things will make an incredible difference if you show that you have empathy and understanding, that behind the smile, there may be someone who's ready to break down and start crying because they're struggling with this experience, whatever that may be. All
I think
right.
you touched on a good thing too, Amelia, I wanted to add is
Yeah,
that
please.
we may not know, right, what's happening. So they may be going through 3, 4 year adoption process, right? They may not look pregnant or say that they're a mom, but they're going through all the same things. And it, could be a medical thing too. There's all kinds of reasons. And so I think it's good just we also talk about being human first. And that's, I think, what being human first really means is there's always more to the story. Always.
Exactly. Thanks, Sabina. So as we wrap up today, 3 things to remember. Availability to customers is a common challenge for mothers in CS, for not only CSMs, but CS leaders alike. Set up positive expectations up front so people don't get into bad habits. Progress, number 2, is being made for women in tech. I'm so excited about that. And therefore, for CS, the changes have been made, but there are more changes to make. It starts with all of you on the call today. And last, CSMs, leaders, allies, you all have a part in playing or driving continual improvement in the future of this profession, our industry, and our daughters, our sons deserve better. Our children, regardless of gender, they deserve better. And Sabina, I think I can say this on behalf of both of us. Thank you for joining us today. If you have a moment, please make sure you connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to continue the conversation. And I think we'll stop sharing and going to Q&A, or if anyone wants to share any reflections, we'd be thankful.
This was incredible. I'm so grateful for you both. So grateful to know you and to just be a part of this movement that you've started. As an ally, I've made like so many notes and I will be internalizing all of them. Yeah, I'm sure that others on this meeting have questions. So please do feel free to come off mic and ask a question for Sabina and Emilia. Maybe I'll start with one on behalf of some people I know who might be listening back to this. So I think a lot of women who are mothers in tech and in CS specifically might be looking for something new right now. So what tips do you have for someone who is looking for a new role to determine whether or not they're going to be successful in that company?
I'll say for me, I've been very upfront and have told anyone that I've been reporting to before I've accepted any role that I have to leave by a particular time, and asked outright, will this ever be a challenge?
Mm-hmm.
And just obviously when I was running executive offsites and all that good stuff for our CS team and ops, obviously if I knew in advance, I would hire a babysitter or someone I trusted to go pick up my children from childcare. That was incredibly important. I don't want to work for a job where I have to be online past 5:10. Childcare closes at 6, and it's a problem. You only get so many strikes out before they reject your child. And here in California, childcare is a huge problem. We don't have enough childcare, and it's very, very expensive. And so you have to have that balancing act. Once you get in, you can't risk your child's spot. So that would be my first tip, is be very transparent about when you can start in office and when you have to leave by.
My add to that is back channel homework. There's someone on this call, not Emilia, I won't name names, but they were doing some interviewing and saw I was connected to someone at the company and said, what is that CEO's morals and values like? What do they stand for? Are they really leaning into customer success, or are they just checking the box to tell their board that they have it? And part of that is understanding what that individual would need in their job to feel fulfilled and to be able to make an impact as a CS leader. So I think that's the kind of same back channeling that we can do as moms as well, and reaching out to others in our networks to ask them, I'm thinking about this position. I have heard good things about this company, or Glassdoor looks a little iffy. Their G2 reviews indicate some things that are strange, or conversely wonderful. Can you tell me what your take is? And these are the things I'm seeking. Do those values align?
Great advice. I'm curious, like, as I'm listening to all of this, I don't know why I haven't come across any employee resource groups for mothers or parents or caregivers, when so many people are one of the three categories, right? Do you think we'll see a change there if you had to, predict the future?
Definitely. We're seeing it now. In fact, the
You are?
opportunities that we've had to speak are for employee resource groups. So like some of our clients in our, quote unquote day job have noticed, and they see that we do this other passion project of pressing on as a tech mom. And like, oh my gosh, would you come and speak? Would you come show that you can be successful and still be a mom or a caregiver? And there's key challenges or things that their companies are actually faced with at that moment that they want us to weave into that narrative. So not only is there a conversation, but they're also listening more now to what their own population, like what specific nuances that their population needs.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll see more of it. And it's about asking your HR teams, asking, I know Bitly was a client of, or is a client of ours, and one of our coworkers has also accepted a position there as a leader, and they're huge, huge, huge on employee resource groups, very much so. In fact, he said that it's there's an unspoken understanding that you will be part of one and be contributing to one authentically. I thought it was really cool. So it's changing. Emilia, I cut you off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. I will say, for example, huge kudos to EdFX, who hired us to come speak to their ERG group. They bought last year, every single employee, a book, one of our books. They want not only the people who are mothers, but everyone to understand, how can we be not only an ally, but what is the contribution that people with children bring to the table, instead of being frustrated, right? Oh, she has to leave. Or I'll never forget, I overheard the CFO being so annoyed that I wanted to have a room with at least paper. They ended up putting brown paper so I could go pump milk. He was so frustrated. And when he had children, years later, I even helped him get a job. I rose above it. I didn't want to stoop to his level, but I really wanted to say to him, how's your wife doing? Pumping, like, we deserve that right. I don't want to be in a bathroom with a hand pump because they won't give me anything but a toilet to pump my milk. And it's frustrating. And so we are huge buyers in the economy of products. We're decision makers. We're the heads of households. We deserve a seat at the table, whether we're pumping milk or having babies or not. That should not hold us back from having a say in what happens in tech.